What is up, guys and gals? Today we're going to show you how to disassemble and clean out each of these type of stainless steel bearings. We have one here that has a retaining ring on the inside that keeps that plate on the outside, the outer ring right there, in place. Then you have the sealed or the plastic sealed one, which is this, and then you have the one that is permanently sealed, has no retaining ring inside. It's just a flat pressed on kind of plate sort of thing. I'll show you how to take that one apart as well and get this one cleaned. I've done a video like this before, but only on one of these, I believe. I think it was this one, or this type of bearing. And now I'm just going to show you all three. Now the process for cleaning these out or refurbishing these will be the same for all three. So I'm only going to show you one when we get to that step. Now for the bearing with the retaining ring inside, you'll see there's a little gap right there. What you'll notice if you look up close on the gap or the ends of the retaining ring is one slopes up or toward you and one slopes away from you toward the outer wall of the bearing. What I typically use is this, but I also have this tool here, which is just an extended or opened up jig head, and I sharpen the edge. We'll start with this. If it works, great. If not, then we'll jump to the hook. Hook is really the best one to use. And I'm looking for the pronged end that is sloping towards the inner wall, so this wall right here, not the one sloping towards this wall. So you have a slope kind of looking like that in that direction, meaning you can get in under it and pop it up. And all we're simply going to do here is stick it in there, find the groove, stick down and up, and out it comes. It's not working with that, so we're just going to jump straight to the hook. And at worst case scenario, we will use the Exacto knife, which is the ultimate, but we never really have to get to that. So again, all I did there was just stick down, put a little bit of pressure toward this ring right here, and then pull up towards the inner wall, and out it came just like that. We'll quickly do the other one. And now to get this out, you can use your Exacto knife and just kind of pry it out, kind of like that. What I like to do is just simply drop it on the floor, and it pops out one of the shields. But once you get one of the shields out, you can just take one of the ends of these retaining rings, and gently put it through where there's not a ball bearing, and you can push the other one out just like that. Now for the seal bearing, you see there's no retaining ring holding that shield in place. We're going to take our Exacto knife, look for a little gap inside there, find it, and just gently stick it in and then lever up just like that. Now you can stick it all the way out and just pull it up, and out it comes. And the same thing for the other side. Now the most difficult one will be the seal bearing. That's an all metal shield simply pressed in. There's no retaining ring, nothing supporting it on the outside that you can remove to pop it out. The only real way of doing it is to totally destroying the outer seal, that ring on the outside right there, to get it out. And the way you do that is with a pick or just a very sharp object on the end and a hammer. It is that simple. So you have to be gentle with this. I'm going to take my sharp end, find a spot, make sure it's in the middle between this inner wall and the outer wall. You don't want to go on the edge on either side. You want to go straight in the middle, and there's a reason for that. Now this one is a little disconcerting if you're doing it. There is a chance you can damage the bearing, but the chance of you getting in there, opening this up and refurbishing the bearing is a lot cheaper than just buying a new bearing. So I'm finding a spot in the middle, put the end of this pick there, taking my hammer, and I'm going to pound, not hard, gently, just to get it started. And the reason I'm doing that is because sometimes when you initially try to pound this through, you meet a little bit of resistance. If you meet a little bit of resistance, that's indicative of you being on top of the ball bearing. So let's start gently. And it feels like we are in a good spot. So let's go ahead and continue. Now that we have that hole there, we're going to take our pick, stick it in there, and just simply pry up. So you're using the leverage of the inner wall to pry this up. Just like that. And now we're going to double check this to make sure that we didn't damage the bearing inside by simply taking it, pinching it, and rolling it, and we can see that the bearing rolls well still. I'm going to do the other side and come right back to you guys. Do note that to remove this side, you have to do the same process that you did for this side. You can also leave it with just one side open. I prefer to open the entire thing so all the debris or any junk or gunk or buildup inside there can just kind of flow through when we clean this bearing up. But if you don't want to risk any more at this point, you can certainly just clean it up in this stage. This one's actually a great example because my first two spots felt like they were close to a ball. There was a slight amount of resistance when I got down into it. So I just stopped and kept moving the pick over and over until I found a spot that felt like it was an open spot, which is right there. And if you're not sure what I mean when I refer to an open spot, you'll see that there's little dips, right? There's a ball right there. There's a dip or a gap right there. So basically all we're doing is we're taking this pick, going down through the metal to inside the race, but not all the way to the chamber right there, or the channel that runs around on. And then so we can create the hole and pop it out. So again, these do not get replaced. They're useless. We're just going to trash them. Now, the ones that the shields can be replaced, I personally do not replace them anyhow because salt water can still get inside. So what's the use? I just kind of leave them the way they are. And when they go bad, either you replace them or you refurbish them like I'm doing here. But I will show you how you can put the seals back on these if you wanted to do so. Now remember I said that you wanted to make sure that this was all metal inside. You don't want anything to have plastic on it. And that's because the cleaner that I use may damage that plastic. And if it does damage the plastic, then it's going to damage the carrier for that ball bearing, thus making it ineffective. Now my first step is to take this, put it inside of a glass bottle. I kind of lay it flat, looking like that. And then I take brake cleaner. I happen to use this one, but you can use any brake cleaner that you find. You can get it at the hardware store. I'm sorry, the automotive store. And I'm going to spray this, and I'm spraying it directly in. I'm spraying it directly inside the bearings of the ball bearing itself. And I just barely cover it. Now I do spray this directly inside the ball bearings to just kind of help to get it started. It doesn't need to do that. Then we're going to let it sit. And my first stint will be for about 5 minutes, and I will check it and see how it looks. You can also in this process just gently shake it around. That just helps agitate the liquid inside, helps it get through the ball bearings at a quicker pace. That's all. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and check it. See how it's looking. You'll start to see the little particles kind of floating around inside there. Don't know if you can even see that, but there are. And we're going to pull this out and see what it's looking like. Now I stuck this through the center of the bearing, not inside where the bearings are or the balls are. It's looking good. You can feel it. See how much faster that's spinning? It's not ready yet, but it's close. So we're going to drop this back in there. If this liquid was too dirty, then I would just throw this away and then start afresh with some new brake cleaner fluid. Drop that back in there and then just let this sit a little longer. Now granted, sometimes when you put a bearing in here to try to refurbish it, you'll take it out and feel that it's still not feeling right. It simply means it's just too bad or too far gone for you to be able to use it. So you just have to trash it or toss it and buy a new one. But with the price of bearings these days, it never hurts to try this first, even for bearings that feel a little bit crunchy when you're rotating them or rolling them in your hand. Plus, if you do with the crunchy ones first, you get to experiment, and if you damage it, hey, it's not that big of a deal because chances are it's probably bad anyhow. But you get a little bit of practice in. You certainly don't want to do with bearings that you open up and you see they're just full of rust. It means the balls are bad inside there anyhow. They're going to be rusty after you clean them out, or even if you clean those off, they'll still get rusty very quickly right afterwards. So it's best to just replace those bearings. Alright, now let's go ahead and take this out and see how it's looking. It's looking pretty good. It's not completely clean yet, but it's close enough. And look how much that spins. Now at this point we're going to support the inner race of the bearing so it can still spin like that. We're going to take our compressed air and we're going to use an intensity, something to like that effect, not that. It's a little too much. So you want to go about half speed or halfway down on this nozzle. And all we're doing there is just drying out the brake cleaner fluid so we have a clean surface to work with. After you're done doing that, you can certainly test it out and see that it spins much better right now. Now the final step is to take this clean bearing, drop that into 91% alcohol, and any brand will do, just as long as the 91% is what you should be using, not the 70% brand. And stick that in there, cover it up, you can shake it around a little bit, let it sit for a minute or so, then take it out and follow the same process that you did with the brake cleaner fluid. All that alcohol is doing is just kind of help getting rid of the residual stuff that comes off of that brake cleaner fluid. And now that's a clean bearing. Now at this point in the video, we'll do our PSA, which is if this is a conventional reel, then the outer bearings I like to grease. So anything on the left side plate, the right side plate, I like to grease those bearings. Anything inside the reel, I prefer to oil, especially the bearings that support the spindle or the shaft in the spool. If it's a spinning reel, you can do whatever you want. Your concern really should be what likelihood does salt water have of getting down and into the bearing. Obviously, if it has a higher chance, you want to grease that. If it has a lower chance, you want to have it spin as freely as possible, and you can oil those bearings. For greasing the bearing, I have two tools that I use, one that I use a lot more than the other. This is my favorite tool to use. It only goes up to a certain size of bearing though, but it does support this bearing. It's no longer made, so I can't tell you where to get it. Sorry about that part. And I don't mean to whet your appetite and not be able to deliver, but kind of is what it is. The second tool is by Alan Tanney, and I know they're still available as of the making of this video. I think they're like around 60 bucks or something, and you can find them at alantanney.com, and I'll put a thingamajiggy here where it prints it out. With this tool, you obviously need a pump to use it, but one thing you want to note here is that when you're putting grease from in here into your bearing, it puts a lot more load on the bearing, so you want to go real slow with this pump. Now remember I said before, I don't put these seals back on there, so you'll notice that these are still dirty. I did not clean this bearing out, or this bearing, or the cover, excuse me, nor did I work on this one because this is a brand new bearing, so I just didn't need to do it. So first we'll start with this metal shielded bearing. We'll take the cover, the indented part will be facing down, so the bump will be facing up, kind of like that, or however you took it off. Want to make sure you see the writing on the outside. Just stick it back in there, push it down to where it's seated properly, and now we're taking one end. I like to take the end that's sloping toward the outer race, but it doesn't really matter. Stick it in there under the bridge that's inside the outer wall of the bearing and the shield itself. Stick one end in, and then you just kind of work it around with your fingers. Hold this side down and push down and kind of in when you're putting the rest of it in. But you want to start from one end and work all the way around to the other side. That's already in, and you can feel it when you turn it. For the sealed bearing, you simply just drop it back on there, kind of like that, and then just push. And I will take my screwdriver and just kind of gently push it down to make sure it's in there. Like so. Then you can always double check it also, and that feels really good. If you found the video useful, please hit that thumbs up button. If you appreciate content like this, consider subscribing to the channel and spreading the word about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time.